morning and welcome to At Center Stage at the NAFEM Show. I'm Deidre Flynn, and today I am joined by 5 industry leaders to talk about channeling the future. With me, to my right, Rich Packer, representing NAFEM and President of American Metal Craft, Dave Stafford, FEDA Chair and President of Stafford and CEO of Stafford Smith in Kalamazoo, Michigan, Tom Mitchell, immediate past president of MAFSI and founder and chair of TLC Marketing in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Nick Cribb, CFESA president and also president of SAM Service, and Christine Guyott from FCSI's The Americas president and a principal with Rippe Associates. So welcome everyone. We're glad to have the 5 families together and get our conversation started. So we are here today to talk about channeling the future. So we've all lived through some incredible years for the past couple of years, and we don't want to talk about what happened then. We want to talk about where we're going in the future instead. So Tom, I'm going to start with you because as I understand it, MAFSI unveiled what the rep of the future would look like. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, we spent the last 2 years trying to put together a program of understanding of where reps would be going in the future of the industry. And what we discovered was we can't predict, we can only create. So after just talks with as many people as we could and deep dives in the industry information, it came down to one thing, it's relationships. And that's what this industry is all about. And it doesn't matter sometimes what the product is necessarily, it's the relationships you have with the customers you have and how you work that. And that's what's most important to the reps, and that's where the rep of the future lies.
What does the future look like for the service tech, Nick?
So, future for a service tech is they need to be eyes wide open about a lot of different forms of technology. It's not just about turning wrenches and figuring out how valves work anymore. There's a lot more involved in it, and there's a big portion to the soft skills relationship aspect of that too. Is what we're learning is making our customers happy isn't necessarily just fixing their fryer. It's fixing their problem. They want their problem to go away. They want us to fix it for them. In an installation standpoint, they just want exactly what it is that they buy to look exactly like they saw it when in inception, and they want it to work the exact same way. So we're trying to figure out ways for the techs of the future to be able to use technology and communicate at a high level, be a very good professional, as well as do the technical things they need to operate.
So it seems like technology is a common bond for the future for all of us. So Christine, how are consultants evolving from a technology standpoint? How is the business changing for you, not only in what you're learning about products that you're speccing into a kitchen, but how you manage the work that you do, the designs that you do, the management aspect of what you do?
Yeah, technology, we continue to have more and more platforms that we need to know about. So for our own business, Revit was transformational for all of us, and now the VR is going to be the same transformation for our clients. But we're finding that there's a lot of CM software that we have to know about for every project. And every project has probably 3 or 4 platforms of clash detection or other technology that we need to learn. So our staff is continually learning and having to be a part of these systems with the whole team.
David, how does technology fit into the dealer world?
Well, like the consultant world, the VR and the BIM and Rivet and everything else moved from the 2D CAD model. At the same time, when we're dealing with the projects on the project side, we got to go through portals now to get paid and do everything else, Procore or whatever system they want to use. So it's all technologically based. At the same time, the dealers, we've taken the step to take our FEDA data portal to task and pushing that forward so then the manufacturer and everybody has access to their data for that matter. And the manufacturer doesn't have to have it captive, and then it's free back to them because it's their data. And it'll actually help and bring some more quoting platforms to the dance.
So Rich, what's the future look like for manufacturing, and how do you evolve technology into that conversation to make manufacturing as current? It seems strange to ask a supplies guy a question about technology, but there is technology being infused into the supply side of the business. So talk a little bit about that.
Somehow the joke's on me, right? You know, it's funny, if you look at the manufacturers, it's IoT, it's time savings, anything that we can do for connectivity within the manufacturing environment in the back of the house. On the supply side, there's really not much we can do on technology. You know, I have the dream of the bread basket that sends an alert back to the house when the bread's empty so that they can come back out. We're always looking for that one more piece of bread and we never get it. But overall, it's just finding ways to continue to do labor savings, finding ways for connectivity so that we can, each piece of equipment can talk to each other and they can be prepared and try and solve some of the labor problems that we all have.
So Tom, I'm going to come back to you. Technology is high tech. The industry is high touch. It's about relationships, as you outlined. It's about hospitality. So how do you balance that? When you looked at the rep of the future, how do you balance that need for hospitality and connectivity on the human level with data? It seems like the industry, and I'd like each of you to speak to your segments, probably Nick's got the easiest answer on this one, has a tendency to be data shy. We think we know it, but we don't look at the data maybe as much as we should to interpret. So how does that factor into the rep of the future?
Well, there's a lot of information, there's no doubt about it, and information is power. But I think the integration of technology, like my first NAFEM show was 1993, and you went to the payphone to call somebody at home. Okay, so now I have something in my pocket that could have got a spaceship into space 50 years ago. And so I can walk this show and I can communicate with every single customer I have in here at any moment. That's the strength. But the way it works is I have to make sure that I've organized myself on this floor to know where I'm going to take Dave, and it's set up with Rich ahead of time so that we get there, we do the meeting, we use their time properly, we teach them something, and then they can move on. And then with Nick, there's an opportunity to talk to the manufacturers. And with Christine, there's an opportunity to show new products. But you can communicate so much better. You had to walk 100 miles to catch everybody in the old days. And that's what's really cool about this now. It's not, I don't think technology is taking away. I think if you're smart, it'll enhance what you do.
And the big play on that is while technology's there and it advances so much, it's still this.
Yes.
Yes.
It's still that face-to-face, and we've experienced that in the past 2 days here, is how important that part of the equation is too.
Exactly.
How does it impact your learning, Christine? How does that balancing relationships impact your learning, and then how you can design and spec kitchens for your customers?
Yeah, it's impacted us quite a bit. Before, and this isn't anything pandemic related, we would have 2 days, work sessions with our clients. We'd sit down and we'd go through every single piece of equipment. We'd talk about everything. Now, people just don't have that kind of time. Whether it's labor or they're just getting pulled in so many different directions. We now have fewer face-to-face meetings that we still have to have that connection. So we have to find ways with technology to maintain our relationships with our clients with fewer meetings and fewer face-to-face contacts. And that becomes a skill that you have to learn how to develop those relationships and that trust on a shorter amount of time. So we really try to front load those meetings so we can meet them right away. And people are getting used to that type of relationship, but nothing beats the face-to-face for sure.
Right. So Nick, you're frontline with the customer. So we've talked about how you all manage your day, but what's the customer's expectation? And you're on the front line because you're getting that call at 11 o'clock when the fryer's gone down and the lunch rush is coming in, and to get that equipment working again. So what's the customer expectation of how you communicate and how information is exchanged between you and your peers?
They have very reasonable expectations. I would like to point out in 1993, I was in the 5th grade. It was for the second time, but so the customer, what the customer wants from me is he wants for me to get there really quickly. He wants me to treat his people right, and he wants his stuff fixed so he can sell things and drive revenue. And a lot of the times the customer doesn't have much interest in what that means at scale. They really just need their fryer fixed. And I could explain to them that there's supply chain issues, or I could explain to them that there's technological things we're looking to advance with the tech. And at the end of the day, they're just saying, when's my cooler going to be working, or when's my fryer going to be fixed? So we try to do good whenever we're networking at events like this with gentlemen and ladies like this, that we're having conversations. So at the end of the day, I'm not burdening them with that. I'm figuring out my own solutions on my own, implementing it with my peers in CFESA and at SAM Service.
Dave, go ahead. I thought you were going to say something.
What are you going to say?
I was at NAFEM before '93, and I think Tom's older than me. But like, we're dealers at the front line as well, because we're calling on the customer. We're in front of the customer, talking to them, selling product, either be a small wares item or to equipment. We have to deal with it when the customer's fryer goes down. The dealer gets that phone call as well, and the dealer's got to deal with that, and they got to talk to that customer and get with the service agent, and then come back, and the service agent sometimes explains it to the dealer, salesperson, or whoever else, so we can explain it back to the customer as to what went on. I've seen so many things change over the years. I mean, right down to the point now that you got people that are working from home, so instead of working from the office. So you see that, you're seeing that metamorphosis all because of COVID and everything else. But as far as like Christine was saying, when we talk to customers, we still use Teams now and everything else, and you're going over problem solving and you're not in front of them. The FaceTime has been removed, and with the cost of travel and flight and whatnot, it's kind of getting constricted a little bit. So just hoping everything kind of turns around. I don't think we're going to walk away from Teams or Zoom and all that Google Meet. That's going to be there for us all for the ongoing future. It's probably going to, with the VR, get more complicated.
Are expectations of your customer different today than they were 4 or 5 years ago?
I don't think so. I really don't think the expectation is different the way that I see it. I mean, I've got a problem and I need you to fix it. And if I do a really good job of fixing that problem and I articulate the problem and I respond very quickly, and they're happy. And if I'm using Teams or if I'm using all these various forms of technology to do it, I don't think they really care as long as it's getting done well and quickly, because they're losing revenue when that machine's not working.
I think our customers.
One of the things that's, sorry.
I think our customers' expectations are different. Everybody expects you to be available all the time because you aren't on the road as much, and so it feels like they've added about 4 or 5 different Teams meetings per project per week. When you have 25, 30 projects, that's a lot of meetings, and they expect you to be on them, even though you might be 10%, 5% of the project. They still expect you to be at those meetings. So that has changed our world quite a bit.
Right. The beauty of the technology is it kept us connected, and it provided an efficiency that maybe we didn't utilize to the fullest before. The downside is that 24/7 availability.
Yep.
How do you control it, and how do you manage that so that it keeps the efficiency level high, right, in comparison to what we experienced before, which is a bigger challenge. So yesterday we had a conversation about workforce development and aligning your talent strategy with your business strategy for the future. And we talked specifically about capability, capacity, and curiosity in that person that you're looking to bring into your firm. Now, all of you are in a position that when you walk away from your business, while there's planning and there's generational people following you into key roles, when you walk away, a huge amount of intellectual capital goes with you. Even though you've trained and taught other people, a lot of intellectual capital leaves the table. So what are you looking at as the future of your individual firms and your part in the channel as to how you find those people to move the industry forward? Rich?
Dave?
You're not passing the buck that easy.
Sorry. It's all networking. It's finding any avenue through our peers, through our friends, through the local colleges, community colleges. NAFEM put together a community college program to try and bring people in. Obviously, LinkedIn is a great connecting point for all of us. It's funny, we have a couple different rules that we have when we're hiring new people. My first rule is what I call the 3-hour dinner rule. And when we're sitting interviewing somebody, we try and picture whether or not we can stand a 3-hour dinner with them. And if they don't pass the 3-hour dinner rule, I don't want to spend 8 hours a day with them either.
Right.
So it helps build that culture and move it forward. And someone yesterday told me about the SALT rule, that when they're there and actually have that interview and you're having dinner, and if they go and reach for the salt before they've tasted their food,
Right.
then you know that there's someone who's just conditioned and they keep moving and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. They don't necessarily have the same thought patterns. They're not thinking about their meal first. It's the person who goes and tries it and decides that they need salt.
Note
It's
to
just
self, don't salt your
I
food
know.
before you eat your ribs.
No kidding.
And make
Don't
that
insult the
mental note.
chef.
I was guilty this morning.
Dave?
We've been very lucky. As a company, we've been extremely lucky. Let's see, over 50% of our company is Gen Z and Gen Y, whatever you call them. now.
Gen Z.
Huh?
Gen Z.
Gen Z, whatever it is. Yeah, millennials and Gen Z, yeah. So we've been very lucky with that. We have an HR manager. She's a millennial. She's very good at recruiting. She's very good at getting people in. She's got a team of people that do it. What we do is, for us, in my aspect, I don't ask anybody to do anything I haven't done or not willing to do in the business. So as long as I stick to my guns on that, everybody else sticks to their guns as well. We've been very good at retaining this younger crew too. They don't leave, they stay. So retention is very strong in our company, which is a positive. We have a good positive working environment. Despite everybody thinks I might yell or scream, I don't raise my voice.
What?
No, I don't. No. I'm whispering now, so when I do talk my normal inside voice, it's really loud. That's why they think I'm yelling. But no, it really works out well. We've been lucky with that, and then we have a mentor program. So then we take somebody who's older and they have to mentor the people that are younger. I've also been blessed. My oldest son is in the business now, working for us and stepping up, and eventually, just like with my father and I hope to be able to have that transition, and my grandfather and my father. So that'll be a nice thing to have. For our company, we got better each time when the older Dave went away and the younger Dave came in. So I can honestly say that because my dad said it, my grandpa said it. So I'm expecting the same thing. I always say I'm the village idiot, and David's not. So
Tom?
I'm in a little bit of a different position. In MAFSI terms, I have a small average firm. So we're not talking about a lot of people. And my daughter wanted to come to NAFEM when she was 6. She's here today, and she's taking over my company. And it's like I groomed her for it. It was just an amazing thing. And to all the reps, it's really interesting because I've noticed how many don't have a legacy, don't have an idea of what they want to do or how they want to pass their business on. And this is going to be a problem. And the problem is this: there's a lot of lines out there, and there are a lot more lines out there. When I was in the mid of my career, I might have had 9 or 8 lines. Now it's 20 or 21. And you can't pay them the attention that you used to. So we need more people to get into the business. And we didn't groom a group of children, like you say, Z or millennial, to be entrepreneurs necessarily. The education system didn't do that. And so I think it's behooving of us, like you say, the old dogs, as they leave, to sit and talk to all of those young people. I'm going to be speaking at my old alma mater about exactly that. Here's an opportunity. Take it.
So when I think about SAM Service and what we're going to do there and how we're going to grow it, what I try to do is point everybody to the vision. And the vision is we want to have 20 branches by 2032. We've got 4 right now. So it seems pretty grandiose, but we're telling everybody that's where we're going. So if you want to go, if you're interested in that, we need them to be attracted to that. The next thing we do is say these core values that we have really are who we are. We hire and fire by these core values. If you don't align with these values, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you don't need to be on our team. There's another team out there for you. And I feel like if we do a really good job of that, we're going to create good employees that are hopefully going to turn into great leaders, at least potentially be great leaders. Because to have 20 new markets, we need a bunch of really good leaders, right? I'm not just going to need a bunch of employees. And what we're doing with CFESA and that association is we're trying to market to the kids of tomorrow, right? The middle schoolers and the high schoolers, and to say, hey, I know that Miller Brewing pays you really good money, and there's this factory work that looks really cool, but you can bring those talents to this industry. I don't care which one of the 5 families they want to. We just need the talent. We need to market to them so that we can kind of persuade them to come into this industry so they can be our leaders for tomorrow. Because I think other industries do a better job of putting themselves out there, and people want to go be, like for me, a great example is like a car mechanic. Like it's really easy for a kid to be 15, 16 years old and be really good at tinkering with things. And he's like, hey, I'm just going to go work on cars one day. I'm going to figure out how to work on electric cars one day. And I think it's because front of mind, he sees somehow that's marketed to him that that's a good use of his time. And I just have this dream that we can all figure it out together to market ourselves to these kids and say, hey, maybe you could come be a really you're a great salesman, you're good at persuasion, you should be a dealer. You know, you're really good at thinking up new ideas and products. You should be a manufacturer. You should get into food service here and really break it down to them. The food service isn't going anywhere. There's one thing that I'm reminded every time I come to this show is food has to do not only with everything like we're talking about right now, but also every single thing that we were walking over here, what did we do? We stopped and got a coffee. I was like, hey, you want a coffee? It's like, I'm always throwing all these different things in my body, some good, some bad, you know, but it's a part of every aspect of what we do. And I want the future leaders of tomorrow to come and help us, you know, rising tide raises all ships type approach.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about that at Sam Service. I feel hyper focused on that. The other, I hope we can figure it out together, you know, coming soon, how to get sharpen the axe on that one.
Absolutely. Christine?
Yeah, our company has been very intentional lately about looking at succession planning. We've been working through a book called Traction, so we've been working through our rocks and moving our company forward in that way. It's difficult to find. Every consultant out there right now has an ad out looking for consultants, and while it's the greatest job in the world, I don't understand why everybody doesn't want to do it. It's hard to find good folks out there to do it. So I love talking to the younger, you know, students and generation, and most of them don't know there is even a career of consulting. And it does take a little bit of experience before you can do that. It's not something you can generally, except for a few people, start out at, you know, after college and do. But I think we're really working to you know, make sure people know what a consultant is and just work on the visibility. But there's so many things that people can do in our industry, and you know, all of us came from some food service, unless we're legacies, but we all worked as waitresses. We all worked as, you know, in the food service industry and loved it. So there's a whole group of people that have started their careers that way, and how do we keep them in and moving into one of our positions?
So as you look to the future, what is it about your segment of the industry that you would most like to see changed moving forward?
Rates, I'd like to see them go up. That's a joke, I'm just playing.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Man, these kids are expensive nowadays, good Lord. I think the thing that I'd like to see change, just to piggyback off of what I was just saying, is I would really like for these 2 years that I have as president of CFESA, for me to build relationships with like-minded people in our 5 families, and to really start painting a picture for what does 10 years from now look like for people who's going to be elected in your role and in my role and in your role, so that we can say, hey, this is where you need to take it, and we can have some alignment and some strategy involved in getting it there. Again, because I really feel like if we all get better, then it's just going to be more attractive. More people are going to want to be a part of it. If I could somehow market these relationships that I've gained to people, they're going to be like, yeah, I mean, I was at work last night and Brad Paisley was singing. But I mean, I was at work. You know what I mean? I'm building relationships. I'm having conversations around that event that's going to help Sam Service grow. And that's a really cool job, right? So I guess I'd just like to see us get in unity over the next couple of years and maybe figure out a plan of what 10 years from now looks like after us. And I think that could be cool.
So what's the obstacle to that, Nick?
I don't know. I think the number one obstacle is for somebody to say it, right? Schwint called a meeting with me, John Schwint, who I trust greatly, and he said, I feel like the 5 families are more separated and segmented than they ever have been before. And he said, I think it happened during COVID. He said, we did a lot of work and we were all kind of, rowing the boat at the same cadence in the same direction at the same speed, and we were going really fast, and then COVID happened. It's been interrupted. And he said, man, you just got to, when you're on stage or when you're in these meetings, you just got to raise your hand and say, hey, can we chat? What do we need to do so that when you do have an issue related to service coming up, that you can call me and say, hey, I got an opportunity here. I don't know what they are right now. I just know that it exists.
So Tom, what do you think is the biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is keeping the five of us working the way we have for so many years. And I think information, the internet, the customers' needs, everybody became individuals. If Rich just manufactured stuff, he'd have to have somebody to sell it, and he'd have to have somewhere to sell it from, and somewhere to tell the people about it, and somebody to fix it. And we have to recognize that. And my job is to go work with the factories, take the information, be the local guy, sit down with my consultant, discuss the product, find out where it will fit into a job, go to the dealer who's bid on the job, wins the job, and hire the service agent to install the job. We're all together in this. This is not an individual race to the top. If all five of us work together properly, we can make the industry way better than it is now.
I agree.
So David, you've had the advantage of having a legacy to follow. Your son's now in the business.
Yeah.
Is that's not the norm for the average dealership out there, is that?
No.
So what's the future like? What are the challenges for dealerships?
The challenges, and to kind of compound on what Tom was saying, this industry is a symbiotic relationship. And if we don't function like that, and we don't think like that, we're going to have a problem. So when people sit there and they say, I don't need the service agent, or this person's the weakest link, or this person's not doing this or doing that right, or the reps are not doing this right, or the dealers aren't doing this right, or the consultant made a mistake, and what the heck? Well, that's part of life, and we all got to work through that. And the dealers have to understand that as well. We get to take title of the equipment, we get to move the equipment, we get to store it, we get to make sure it gets installed, then we have to go and collect on it. And that's usually the worst part of the whole equation. So, but when you get down to the end of it, this is not hard business to do. It's the relationships, it's dealing with the people, it's trusting those around you. And that's the part of the symbiosis of it. You got to trust your channel partners that you're dealing with. And if you can't do that, you're probably in the wrong business.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people that don't want to trust the rep for some reason, or the vendor, or whomever, or themselves. And you just got to be able to be an adult about it, look in the mirror, and know what you got to do, and do it. And don't sit there and tell yourself, I can't do this. You can do anything you want to do. You just got to be willing to do it. But you got to have to spend time to get it done. And that's the problem. Too many people want to disappear to the lake house. It's a Friday, I'm going to work 4 days. No, you got to work 5 days. You got to work to be successful. You're going to have to work 6 days. You're going to have to work 8 to 15 hours in a day sometimes. So it's just what it is. Just get it done.
So Christine, your reliance on the other family members, so to speak, is a little bit different in terms of the role that you fill because of your direct link to the customer as well. What are the challenges for you as you look to the future? What are the challenges that consultants have to deal with in the future?
I think just the changing needs, the changing technology that our customers are using, keeping up with that has been a challenge for, I think, all of us. Just the various software programs, frictionless. There's so much to learn on that, and it's not necessarily equipment related. It's more software related and other POS systems and other, micro-mart type, technology that isn't usual that we need to know about. So I think it's been expanding our universe more from not just equipment tech, but to all the other levels of tech that we need to include into a project. So I think that has been challenging to learn and what pieces talk to each other. You're looking at all the the pickup lockers. Well, which one talks to which software? We almost have to, and we have developed a whole chart of technology to figure out, what are they using for all the different software systems and their vendors to see if the equipment will even match up with that. So I think it's taken us into a different level than we have been before, and we have to kind of step it up.
Absolutely. So Rich, there's the logistical side of manufacturing challenges, and then there's the strategic, the business development side of manufacturing challenges. How do you view both? What do you see as the future for manufacturing?
So if you look at manufacturing, some of the challenges that we've had is as shop classes have disappeared from public schools over the past 20, 25 years, it's harder and harder. When one of our presses go down, we have to call a technician to come out, and typically that technician is somewhere between the age of 70 and 95. It's hard to find people who have the ability and have the knowledge to do that. A lot of our manufacturing has moved overseas, and that creates a huge problem, especially as we're trying to bring stuff back here. We don't have the talent pool that's there. And I want to go back, you were asking this question earlier, this graying of our industry is we've had just an unprecedented number of retirees go out in this past 2-3 year window. Yep. And we don't have that young, I applaud Nick for rising to where he's come at this point in such a fast time, is we don't have those young leaders stepping up. Yeah. And it's a real problem. We need to focus on bringing more. We each have our own young professionals organization that we need to tie together better. And on top of that, we need to work on our diversity. And if you look at we're not a very diverse industry, and we need to be more representative of what's out there. And those are pretty significant. I used to joke that when I first entered the industry, I was the youngest guy in the room, and my joke now is I still am. So we need to,
No, you're not.
No? Okay. But we really need to focus, and I think that's our biggest partnership goal is how do we work on our DE&I? How do we bring these young professionals into it and make our industry a more cross-representative of what the world is and what our market is?
Yeah, there is hope though. One of our youngest members on the board, I think he's in his mid-30s. And we were sitting at the table at a board meeting trying to come up with memes and stuff, because everything's about Instagram and LinkedIn now. And he looked at me and he said, "Answer the phone, tell the truth." I thought, that's brilliant. And you're thinking like that. That's even better. And that's what you want to hear. They're going to grow into the role really well.
So it all seems like the conversation keeps circling around to communication, and that the communication that you all need to continue to do with each other is going to carry us into the future. And that's something that you're trying to embed into your teams that are moving into leadership positions in your organizations and in your own companies. So you all obviously have a great passion for this industry. You've worked in it for many years. You've supported it. You've got a great passion for the associations that you represent and what they do and what they try to do for their constituencies. So talk a little bit about your journey there and what you would tell the next generation about why they should engage with FCSI-The Americas and with CFESA and with MAFSI and with FEDA and with NAFEM. What they gain from it, what you've gained from it. Talk a little bit about that. Tom, I'm going to start with you.
Go get a job in the food service industry. My son is getting ready to go off to university in September, and he said to me, "I'm going to get a job." And I said, "Good, I'll make a phone call." And it's not because I didn't think he could get a job of his own. I just knew what job I thought he might enjoy. And once you learn service, once you learn the idea of standing in front of somebody and asking what they want, and then going back somewhere and getting it and bringing it back and being paid for it, you start to understand how the cycle of business works. And anybody here, I mean, what is the running joke? Forbes 500, 250 of them work for McDonald's at one time. It's important. At one time in my career, I was running a restaurant that had 284 employees. And it's a symphony You learn so much organization, you learn multitasking, you learn all the things you need to do in life in a very short period of time. So that's my advice.
Christine?
I think we have decreased our average age of consultants, actually. And on our board, we have 2 female board members. We also have kind of a lower age of our board too, which I think is very impressive. And we just had a whole session at our symposium on the benefits of FCSI and what we got out of it. I started in 2009 with conference planning. And I think that there's a law of attraction, right? If you're having fun and people see that you're enjoying your professional organization, your job, whatever it is, they want to have some of that. So I think the more we make, this industry is a fun industry, right? You can't say it's not, but the more people see the diversity, the more people see that you're having fun, I think that will attract more of that. So I think the encouraging people to be on any of the boards as well is there's so much leadership that you learn. Public speaking, I mean, you have to have these skills, and you learn these skills by continually doing it. So there's a lot to be gained by being involved.
David?
This is a great, yeah, okay. I grew up in this industry. Started working at the age of 12 in a warehouse just to get on my mother's hair. But this industry is a great industry. You have the relationships, the friendships you get. When I first attended a FEDA meeting back in the 80s, my father told me, go and listen. Just listen. Go up, introduce yourself, and listen to what everybody has to say. And you found that you were talking to a lot of really smart people, and you got to learn from them. And then at the same time, you come to an NAFEM, you listen to everybody else. You have a buying group meeting, you talk to the manufacturers. That's how Richard and I met the first time, back in '99. And we just listened to what he had to say. And that's a big thing about it, is paying attention, listening, communicating. But this industry is just phenomenal. I mean, you get the relationships, you get to build things, you get to deal with people in the 5 families, which is a lot of fun. But the real barrier is when you go home and you try to explain to somebody what you do.
Yeah.
When you try to explain that I sell equipment, or we install it, or you service it, or you design, or whatever, they just stare at you like, huh? They don't understand it. And then when you say the 5 families, they go, the what? So it's kind of interesting. It really is.
Yeah, so a little over 9 years ago, I went to work at Sam's Service for $10 an hour as a dispatcher. I got a really cool story. So I just try to remember that with gratitude and humility, and share that with peers of mine when I'm at events like this all the time, that I'm not this person with an extraordinary amount of education, with a legacy that I was able to follow. I just found myself at a point in life where I wanted to be the best version of myself, and I just so happened to be at a Food Equipment Service Association, or a company. But then going through the ranks of CFESA, I learned that these people that I'm running with, like Potvins and Ron Arringtons and like this, that if I allow them to influence me, then I actually become a better person, like a better man, like I'm a better dad, and I'm a better friend, and I'm a better husband. And that makes me a better leader within my organization. It makes me a better leader, thought leader, developing visions for people to align with in my association. And I just try to keep it simple with people that I talk to when I talk to my peers that are millennials, right? It's like, I'm not just like, hey, run for the board. I'm like, hey, if you have a meeting with Gary Potvin, he is gonna talk to you. But listen to him. Chew up the meat and spit out the bones, and figure out what it is that you can glean from that and get better. And it's not just about booking meetings, sometimes it's about allowing yourself to be influenced in a positive way. And if I can make it like I did, then I know there's got to be at least 1,500 people out here walking this floor right now who just need the same opportunity I did, and we just need to pull them in and point them in the right direction and develop them.
Yep.
Great.
So I was thinking about this. One of the most important things I think we can do as individuals is service. And service, whether it's to those less fortunate, which gives you certain benefits to yourself as you feel good about yourself and you're helping someone. But service to the industry is an incredible thing because it pays it forward, but you also have this huge opportunity as you're giving service. You meet people along the way. My closest friends that I have today are due to my service. I've developed if you're familiar with the term Vistage is a group of executives. I have my own little Vistage group of people that I've served with that if I have a problem, I call them and they help me solve that problem. I wouldn't have had that without my service. I wouldn't have had these connections without having done the 20-something years I've done on the Trade Show Advisory Council or my time on the NAFEM board. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to spend as much time as I've had and the dinners that Tom and I have had together. This service has built me into a stronger person with a much stronger network. And it's incredibly important for all of us. I mean, some of the dinners weren't that good, but most of them were.
It only lasted 1 hour.
And he
So
salted
I
it.
can't say that the word
grab
service
salt too
enough.
fast.
Just volunteer, get involved.
So this is kind of taking it a little bit backward, but to challenge you all a little bit. So there's no such thing as a 10-year plan anymore, a 20-year plan anymore. So we, as people engaged with you in the industry, need you to move faster at this bonding, at this communication, at this collaboration to really propel the industry forward and grow. So is it possible that the industry can move more quickly than it has in the past? Because we should be planning, do you agree or disagree that we should be planning for 2 and 3 year windows, at the longest outset a 5-year window, versus the typical planning, what do I want to be when I grow up, and you look at that as a 20-year horizon?
Well, necessity is always the mother of invention, and right now you watch this whole robot conversation going on. We're going to have more robots, and everybody's expecting to see these people walking around in metal. And it's not about that. Yes, we need automation, and that's what it is automation, and the factories will build that, and that will move faster forward. But as far as the industry that we're in and the developments of change, there's so many things coming from so many angles, whether it's the change in fuels and going from gas to electric and not having enough electrical supply to do that. And all the other little pieces that if we don't sit and talk to each other, if we don't figure out how we're going to get that across to the public and how the public's going to accept that, we're in a lot of trouble. I was at a factory training meeting on Tuesday, and we sat and looked at the equipment, and it was a company that's made gas equipment since 1857, and now they have to make electric. The change is immense. It's going to be interesting to watch.
I look at it, when I got out of college, my first job was, I served in the Marine Corps, and I learned a simple phrase, and that's what it is. And you're right, you can't have a 10, 20-year plan anymore. That worked in my grandfather's era. We do a 5-year at the longest, but I look at it year by year. And I actually come back and I actually look at 6 months by 6 months at times too. You have to adjust, adapt, and overcome to your environment. You can't sit there and say it's always been this way and this is how it's always going to be, because it's not going to always be that way. And if you cannot adjust, adapt, and overcome, you're going to be the guy lying on the field wondering what the heck happened to you, looking up at the sky, and the world's running by you.
Well, there weren't many bright spots coming out of COVID. That's probably one thing that was a bright spot for all of us. It forced us to think faster. It forced us to, I hate the word pivot because we overused it in those years too, but it did force us to look at things differently and to communicate more strongly, better overall, and to not accept what was, not to view it as a go back, instead of going back to the way it was when people were talking in the beginning about, well, when this is over and it goes back, it's never going to be over. It's different. It's not over. It's just different. So how do we move forward? Rich, what do you think?
You lost me halfway through that question.
We've had to change a lot. I mean, I think sometimes we don't even recognize how fast we have changed. I was hand drawing on a drafting board, a couple years ago, and now I'm completely, online. So if you had sat down and said, "Oh, was your 2 or 3 year plan to start, producing in a completely different way. I mean, that wasn't on my drawing board, literally. I think we have to recognize that we have changed a lot, and I think our communication was better. I think we were, forced together. I think generationally we need to continue to encourage people to just pick up the phone. I mean, this nightmare of emails back and forth where everything can be misinterpreted, and then you get, you see in the bottom of the chain that so-and-so said this. I think we just need to get out of that and just pick up the phone, solve the issue. I think it'll be better for everybody. So that's kind of, the change, and I think we can make that change happen quicker, all of us as 5 families, to just work better together, and not let that technology, mess with our group.
Right.
Yeah, the challenge with that pick up the phone is this newer generation that's coming into the marketplace doesn't realize that the phone is also a device for talking into.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
They want to text everything.
So
You call them, they text you.
We keep saying pick up the phone, and yes, it's possible, but that generation doesn't communicate that way. And how do we work with that generation so that they can also communicate and communicate with us, which is a big challenge. I was thinking the other day, it was the question before I got lost, which was talking about how quick we have to work and how quick we have to plan, is the word is urgency. We have to operate today, every day with urgency, and how fast we operate. The old days when you had to type a letter to somebody and you'd pick out the letterhead. Do you remember the letterhead? It had the behind it with the watermark.
Right.
That was good letterhead. We all got excited.
You didn't want to waste it.
You didn't want to waste the good letterhead. And you type out the letter, and then you put it in the mail, and then a week later, someone would get a response. We have to have responses immediately.
Yeah.
We have to respond quickly and make decisions. We're from NAFEM's perspective, we're just finishing what I believe, and I'm not looking for applause, but we're finishing what I believe is the best NAFEM show we've ever had. And we're walking away from this, and we could look back and say, okay, that was the greatest one, we got this, we have it canned, let's just go and book it for 25. We're going in June, we have a board strategic planning meeting in June where we're going to deconstruct the entire show. We're going to blow it up because we know that 2 years from now it's going to be a different world.
Yeah.
And that's how quick you have to operate. And for all of our businesses, we can't just assume that 2 years from now, Tom, MAFSI came out with the future of the rep.
Yeah.
The future of the rep, I know 2 years from now is going to be a lot different than what we even think it is today.
Yeah.
And that's how fast we have to think. And it's mind-numbing, and it's crazy. And then the emails that we get at 10 o'clock at night, when Deirdre asked the question of Nick earlier, when that 11 o'clock call comes in, what's their expectations? I thought she was saying 11 p.m.
Yeah.
Because I know you get those calls too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's how fast we have to think and react.
The communication, pardon me. One of the problems I've noticed is the companies that didn't communicate. There was when everybody sort of locked down in COVID, and it was a little bit different in Canada than it was in the States. A lot of people shut down and closed in, and it thought that they have to keep it internal. They can't let because they're having problems. Everybody was having problems, supply problems and labor problems and all kinds of things. And instead of communicating that and being transparent and being open and saying, look, we have problems, but here's how we're solving them, it was like, we'll just deny we have problems for a while. And you can't do that anymore because there's too much exposure. Everybody can see everybody else's business, whether it's online or however. And so I think it's really important that everybody understands that you have to communicate all the time, instantly. But I read an article the other day that I thought was hilarious. Apparently the Zs, the Zs, whatever, are starting to do things more in analog and old style because they realize how exposed they are on their phones, online, and everything else. There's even talk of writing letters, just like you said.
Wow.
Yeah. And an analog phone, things like that, because people are overexposed now. And I think they're starting to understand that that's not necessarily a good thing. So we may see some change in that direction as well.
So what's the, we've got just a few more minutes and then we're going to wrap up. So what's the, if you could give NAFEM advice on what you'd like to see in 2025 at the NAFEM show, what would it be? Christine, I'll start with you and run right down the line.
NAFEM advice for 2025.
There's always a first one.
I know, I don't want to be the first one, Deidre. Wider aisles. No, I don't know. But yes, maybe wider aisles. I noticed, we have a big group of people, and so we were taking up the whole aisle when we were trying to look at, some of the equipment on the side. We also bring 14 to 15 people, and we were talking about you can't hear people present, and then we can't have the loud things, but we were saying, well, can we do the tourist things where we all have headsets and we have one person with a speaker that we can then listen to their presentations, because the 3 people in front get to hear everything and the rest of them don't. So how can we actually listen and hear to the people that are presenting when we have these big groups of people? So I don't know, wider aisles and silent disco headsets that
It's the simple thing sometimes.
It is. It is.
So you mentioned the
Softer
book
carpet.
Traction earlier. I'm a big fan of that book, Traction by Gino Wickman. If you haven't read it, you need to. It's a good use of your time. So it has changed the way that I think. And you challenged just a minute ago. I heard that. When somebody challenges me, it means something to me. I'm like, okay, all right, let's go. So I want to accept your challenge with some to-dos. I do not know what these 5 families' top 3 to 5 most important things are to get done in the next 2 years. I don't, as I sit here right now, I have no clue what your association, what winning looks like. I'd like to. So at the next NAFEM show, I'm sitting here in unity with my 5 families, and the 3 or 4 things that we're chasing at CFESA, and I know the 3 or 4 things you are, and there's been some traction gained through that, so that when we get here, maybe we'll have a little bit more unity and maybe be able to weaponize ourselves together in a way that we haven't before. I think that could be really neat. I'll send the email.
He'll text.
Good one.
Tom?
I like Christine's idea, and I'll guarantee you, in 2 years, there'll be an app for your phone where you can put your earpods on and stand there and listen to the whole presentation in the booth. And because that's how fast we move now, right? When there's a need, there's an answer, and it's there. As far as that crowding around the booth and looking over each other's shoulders while somebody explains how the new range door works and stuff, I mean, that's as old as the hills. But there's a certain unifying thing. I know, speaking as a rep, when all the reps are standing there and you're all shoulder to shoulder, there's a commonality that comes out of it that is still good. And in 1993, it was exactly that way. Last Tuesday, it was exactly that way. That's great. Some things won't change. I think that's the other thing. We can't expect everything to change. Some things will stay the same.
Compound on that, some things have to stay the same. Because if we don't have that type of interaction with each other, we are going to lose our relationships. And that's what Thomas said at the beginning. It's a relationship business. The biggest thing I'd ever want, softer carpet, padding, more seating areas. As some of us are getting older and beat up, it's harder to walk around, but no, it's actually, I think I've watched a progression of NAFEM over the years. There's a lot of things that are kind of the same. You have the booths, you have this, you have that, but you watch a lot of the manufacturers, they're changing up their booths.
Sure.
Or they're changing up their ownership, or however they're doing it. But I've seen a very positive progression over the years and expect to see that even more so. But I really do like what you guys are saying about when you're talking to a vendor, you're learning from them, you got a group of people coming up with something. And the app you're probably right.
Yeah.
In 2 years, there'll be an app. Somebody will watch this and develop the bloody app. So.
We're going to develop it now because...
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a 5-family app.
Exactly,
a 5-family app.
Rich?
So I'm not going to, I don't know what the answers are. And that's the beauty of where we're at. The board's going to sit down and really take it, and we'll get all the information from everybody. And there's a survey that comes out that you guys are all supposed to fill out, and it'll tell us what you thought of the show, and you have a chance to give us your suggestions. And I'll be honest with you, those are the first thing I read the second we get them. It's incredibly important to hear from both exhibitors and attendees on what values this show does bring. I just want to show my appreciation for everyone who's come here, whether it's an exhibitor or an attendee. We appreciate you and all that you do and what you bring to this industry. And rather than, I just want to pass this on to you guys, one of the things that I've been doing a lot more lately is, it used to be with our employees, the old mindset was your paycheck is your thank you. And thank you very much, you got paid this week. I literally go around our factory at least 3-4 times a week, and I'm shaking hands with everybody and thanking them for the work that they do, and I will be doing that with our NAFEM team staff today, thanking them for everything they do. And you can't say thank you enough to those that work with you or around you. And if you can use those words more often, that would be wonderful.
So thanks to all of you for joining us at Center Stage here at the NAFEM Show. And thanks to our panelists for participating. We don't say thank you enough to you either for what you do for your organizations as well as your own businesses. So we look forward to seeing everybody in February in Atlanta, Georgia for the NAFEM Show 2025. Thank you. Have a great show.
Thank you.